Simultaneous elections. Recently, One Nation, One Election Bill for simultaneous elections, also known as Constitution 129th Amendment Bill 2024, was introduced in Lok Sabha and will be reviewed by a joint parliamentary committee. Key provisions: insertion of new Article 82A, simultaneous elections. Election Commission will conduct general elections for Lok Sabha and all state legislative assemblies simultaneously. Terms of all these state legislative assemblies will end with the full term of Lok Sabha. Amendment to Article 83, definition of an expired term, mid-term and general elections. Lok Sabha dissolved before full term of 5 years. Period between date of dissolution and expiry of full term shall be an unexpired term. Pursuant to dissolution, a mid-term election shall take place and a new Lok Sabha shall be constituted only for an expired term. Amendment to Article 172 defines unexpired term for and full term for SLAs. Amendment to Article 327, power of Parliament to make provisions with respect to elections to legislatures. About simultaneous elections. One Nation, One Election, popularly known as simultaneous elections, means general elections held for constituting the House of People and all the legislative assemblies together. Simultaneous elections does not mean that voting across the country for an election need to be happen on a single day. India conducted Lok Sabha and Vidhan Sabha simultaneous elections in 1951-52, 1957, 1962 and 1967. This cycle was disrupted due to premature dissolution of state assemblies and of Lok Sabha in 1970. The bodies that recommended simultaneous elections: 170th Report of Law Commission of India 1999, National Commission to review the working of the Constitution 2002, Parliamentary Standing Committee Report of 2015 and Working Paper of Niti Aayog in 2017. State Election Commission. Recently, Comptroller and Auditor General in its Karnataka report observed the disempowerment of SECs, delays elections to Lok Sabha government. What is State Election Commission? Autonomous constitutional authority responsible for administering elections to local self-governments, Panchayati Raj institutions and urban local bodies. 73rd and 74th Amendment Act of 1992 provided to constitute SEC. It was also recommended by Gadkil Committee. Constitutional provisions: Article 243K(1) and 243ZA. Superintendence, direction, control of preparation of electoral rolls, conduct of all elections to panchayats and municipalities vested in SEC. 243K(2), condition of service and tenure of State Election Commissioner determined by Governor. He shall not be removed from office except in manner and on grounds prescribed for removal of Judge of State High Court. He can be removed only by President. Functions of State Election Commission: delimiting the constituencies for local body elections, overseeing preparation and revision of electoral rolls, reservation of seats for SC, STs, OBC, authority to decide dispute relating to local body elections, including matters of disqualification of candidate, provide advice to governor on matters related to conduct of local body elections. Delimitation Commission. Supreme Court in Kishore Chandra Chhaganlal Rathod case 2024 held that constitutional courts have the power to review orders of the Delimitation Commission if an order is manifestly arbitrary. Delimitation is the process of fixing the number of seats and boundaries of territorial constituencies in each state for Lok Sabha and legislative assemblies. Responsibility of delimitation is assigned to a high power body known as Delimitation Commission, which is also known as Boundary Commission. Under Article 82, delimitation is done by such authority and in such manner as Parliament may by law determine. In India, such delimitation commissions have been constituted 4 times in 1952, 63, 73 and 2002. It is an statutory body. Delimitation Commission's decisions are considered final and are unchallengeable in any court. The copies of its orders are laid before the Lok Sabha and State Legislative Assembly concerned, but no modification are permissible therein by them. Composition: Judge of Supreme Court, Chairperson, Chief Election Commissioner or Election Commissioner nominated by Chief Election Commissioner, State Election Commissioner of concerned state. EVM VVPAT: Association for Democratic Reforms versus ECI and another. Supreme Court dismissed a request for cross-verification of EVM's data and voters' verifiable paper audit trail (VVPAT) records. EVM is portable microcontroller-based instrument designed to modernize election process. It is manufactured and supplied to ECI by Bharat Electronic Limited under Ministry of Defence and Electronic Corporation of India Limited under Department of Atomic Energy. Goa was the first state to use VVPAT and with all EVMs during the 2017 Legislative Assembly elections. VVPAT were fully deployed in 2019 Lok Sabha general elections. Journey: EVMs were first time used in by-elections of Kerala in 1982. In 1989, RPA was amended to permit EVM use. 2004, EVM were adopted for general elections and have been used in all elections since then. 2013, Supreme Court mandated VVPAT use in Subramaniam Swamy versus ACI. 2019, Supreme Court ruled in N. Chandrababu Naidu versus Union of India that 5 EVMs per assembly constituency or assembly segment in parliamentary constituency require VVPAT verification. It consists of a ballot unit, functions like a keyboard with 16 buttons. Control unit, or also called as master unit, remains with the polling or presiding officer. VVPAT allows voters to verify that their votes are cast as intended. It was introduced to have fullest transparency in voting system and to restore the confidence of voters by ensuring the accuracy of voting system using EVMs. Advantages: it runs on battery, no external source of supply needed, negating a scenario of an invalid vote, does not permit more than 4 votes per minute, which deters booth capturing. Also, pressing close button on control unit will lead to no possibility of voting. Not possible to pre-program EVM in a spurious manner. MCC: in response to violation of MCC during Lok Sabha elections, ECI has recently issued directives to political parties and their representatives to utilize social media platforms ethically. Genesis: in 1960, first introduced in state assembly elections in Kerala. Set of guidelines laid down by Election Commission in consensus with political parties to govern conduct of political parties as well as candidates to ensure free and fair elections. EC derives its authority from Article 324, which provides power of superintendence, direction, control of elections to Parliament, State Legislature, President and Vice President's office. Although Constitution doesn't explicitly mention about the MCC, scope and applicability applies to all political parties, their candidates, polling agents, government in power and government employees. Activities prohibited: policy, project, scheme cannot be announced. Avoid advertising at the cost of public exchequer. Prohibition of any ad hoc appointment in government or public undertaking. Holding public meetings during 48 hours period before the hour fixed for closing of polls. Ban of government resources like transport, machinery, etc. for campaign. Ministers or candidates cannot sanction grant or payments from discretionary funds. Duration of applicability: MCC is operational since election schedule is announced till results are announced. This period has been upheld by Punjab and Haryana High Court in Harbans Singh Jalal versus Union of India in 1997. Consequences of violation: since MCC has no statutory backing, violations cannot be prosecuted. However, certain provisions are enforceable through corresponding provisions in these statutes like BNS, RPF 1951. Publishing of false statements about a candidate's character or conduct is a corrupt practice under Section 123(4) of RPA 1951. Impersonation of voters is an electoral offence under Section 172 of Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita. Lok Sabha elections. System of elections, territorial representation for election of members of Lok Sabha. Under this, every member of legislature represents a geographical area known as constituency. From each constituency, only one representative is elected. Hence, such a constituency is known as single-membered constituency. In this system, a candidate who secures majority of votes is declared elected. Duration: normal term is 5 years from the date of its first meeting after general elections, after which it is automatically dissolved. President is authorized to dissolve Lok Sabha at any time, even before completion of 5-year terms, and this cannot be challenged in court. It can be extended during national emergency period by law of parliament for 1 year at a time for any length of time. However, this extension cannot continue beyond a period of 6 months after emergency has ceased to operate, and the extension needs periodic review. Constitution provides provisions. Article 324 to 329 enshrined in Part 15 deals with the provisions related to elections. Article 329B. Recently, Election Commission of India invoked Article 329B of Constitution before Supreme Court to limit the judicial intervention in the electoral process. As per this article, no election to parliament or state legislature shall be questioned except through an election petition filed as prescribed by law made by appropriate legislature. Supreme Court in NP Pannuswamy versus Returning Officer 1952 states that once ECI officials notify election process, court cannot intervene or interfere. Also, under RPA 1951 section 18, validity of an election cannot be challenged or questioned except by filing an election petition. Election petitions are filed in concerned state's high court, which has original jurisdiction. Appeals lie in Supreme Court. An election petition can be filed by any candidate or an elector relating to the elections personally. Elector means a person who was entitled to vote at the election to which the election petition relates. Nomination in election. Recently, a candidate was elected unopposed in Lok Sabha as the nomination papers of the opposite candidate was rejected by the returning officer. Nominations in election. Section 33 of RPA 1951 contains the requirement for a valid nomination. Candidate from recognized political party should have one proposer. Candidate from independent unrecognized parties should have 10 proposers. The proposers should be electors from the respective constituency. Section 33 of RPA 1951 deals with nominations for election of candidates and presentation of valid information. Supreme Court held that election candidates have right to privacy as regard to matters which are of no concern to voters or are irrelevant to candidature of public life. Section 336 of the same Act provides for scrutiny of nomination and empowers the returning officer to reject the nomination on grounds of defect of substantial character. Repolling. ECI conducted repolling of Lok Sabha general elections in various polling stations of Manipur and Arunachal Pradesh. Provisions relating to repolling are under RP 1951. Circumstances under which repolling is needed: natural calamity, violence, damage or destruction of voting machines, countermanding of elections on account of booth capturing, on account of death of candidate of recognized political party, national or state party. Silence period. Observed in states where Lok Sabha elections were held. Ban on political campaigning before voting begins 48 hours before the voting day and ends after polling ends. Some prohibitions under RPA 1951 during this period. However, Act does not use the term silence period. Section 126(1) prohibits displaying any election matters using television or similar apparatus or propagation of election matters through any entertainment. Section 126A prohibits conducting exit polls and displaying their results using print or electronic media. Section 126(1)B prohibits displaying results of any opinion poll. One candidate, multiple constituencies. Constitution has empowered Parliament to regulate the manner of conducting elections. Therefore, contesting from multiple constituencies have been dealt with NRPA 1951. Under this act, there was no limit on number of constituencies a candidate could contest until 1996. Provisions related to OCMC under this act, subsection 33, it allows a candidate to contest from two seats introduced through amendment in 1996, prior to which there was no bar. Section 70, it stipulates that a candidate can hold only one seat at a time, regardless of whether he or she has been elected from more than one seat. If any candidate wins from two seats, a by-election is necessary from the seats that he or she vacates. Home voting, for the first time, provided to voters because the motto was no voter left behind. Under this, voting from home takes place through postal ballot with involvement of full contingent of polling staff, security personnel, with secrecy of voting diligently maintained. Beneficiaries: PWD meeting 40% disability benchmark, senior citizens aged above 85 years. Other steps: abolished Form M for Kashmiri migrants residing in Jammu and Udhampur. Sweep systematic voters education and electoral participation to engage PWD and also sensitize their family, friends, etc. Proposed multi-constituency remote electronic voting machine would enable migrant voters to exercise their vote from their current place of residence. Postal ballot, it allows votes being sent by post. Following persons are entitled to vote by post: special voters, service voters, voters on election duty, electors subject to preventive detention. Proxy voting, it allows registered electors to delegate his voting rights to a representative he nominates, available for service voters. Who are service voters? Members of armed forces, members of police force of state who are serving outside the state, persons who is employed under Government of India in a post outside India, members of a force to which Army Act 1950 is applicable. Form 17C, Election Commission told Supreme Court the rules do not permit sharing Form 17C data with any entity apart from polling officials. Associated with directions under Conduct of Election Rules 1961, its first part provided information relating to number of eligible voters assigned to the booth, electors in the registered voters. Voters who decided not exercise their franchise, voters not allowed to vote. Second part contains information like name of the candidate and total vote they received. Braille signage, Election Department of Puducherry will provide braille signage in English and Tamil to EVMs in all 967 polling stations. It will enable visually impaired or blind voters to participate independently and confidentially in the electoral process. However, if elector desires, he or she will be allowed to bring a companion, as provided in Rule 49N of Conduct of Election Rules 1961.